Friends, welcome to the California Republic on my top secret test road in one of my favorite cars as of late. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, actually something I haven't done in an incredibly long time, and that is an Ask MotoMan episode. My apologies, I have not done one of these in a very long time, and the questions have built up, so I figured have a fun car, a nice day, so let's go out and answer some of your questions. And I even brought a special shirt along for the occasion. This is the SEMA 2012 shirt that I earned for building 4 SEMA show cars with Mazda way back in 2012 with Derek Jenkins. So I'm very proud of this shirt. So I figured, hey, when in Rome, do as the Romans. Okay, so before we get to the questions here, I want to go through a couple of things about the car because, you know, I tried to be like clever with the outro of the episode of this car. Believe it or not, we shot this thing a year ago, exactly a year ago this month. And, you know, there was a lot of hype going into it. And, you know, I'm friends with Dave Coleman, and, you know, Dave, he just makes magic things happen. I mean, the guy, he married a woman who races cars. You know the guy's a car guy when he married a woman that races cars, and they got married on Laguna Seca, and not at the paddock or like some like picnic area. They got married on the corkscrew. So the point is, if people like that are behind a car, you know it's going to be good. So I went into it with this like hype. I'm like, oh, it can't be that good. Oh my God, was I wrong? Man, did this thing, even back then with only like driving it a day and a half, I was like, oh my God, this thing blew me away. But now I've had like a little bit over a week in this thing. This is magical. Like, magical doesn't even begin to describe this car. You know what? Rather than me going on and on, this is now on my very short list of cars I would actually write a check for of my own money. And you know I'm a cheapskate. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, so you know how I am about that kind of stuff. I would totally write a check for this car. And I would go so far as to saying that, like, I would almost suggest you don't go and test drive one of these things because you'll buy it. It's like, it's more addicting than any drug you can imagine. Like, the minute I got into this thing, they brought it to the studio and I had all this editing to do that, I think it was the Bentley episodes, or no, it was the E300 episode, the tech review. And I was like, screw it, I'm going out for a ride. And I think I came back like 3 hours later, no joke. It's just that balanced. And yeah, okay, I'm broken. I'm a weird individual. Of course, I'd want like coilovers or whatever like the guys that fly in Miata in Colorado would do to this thing. Actually, I thought about this and I spoke to Brandon a little bit. And basically, I would probably do a little bit of suspension, not much because it really doesn't need it. And then I would probably have them do that like that supercharger thing. Remember Nancy from our Target Newfoundland episodes? I would probably do that version of this car. And that's it. Like, I don't think I'd even need the 8-cylinder, although I love the craziness of the 8-cylinder in a Miata. I don't think I'd even need that. This car is that perfect. Like, I even like the way it works on the inside. I'm 6 foot tall, and I have plenty of room in this thing. If I'm really nitpicking, maybe a little bit more lumbar support. I still have that complaint about no tan leather seats in the Club Sport, which is the one I would get, which this car is. There is one other neat thing that I've noticed, like you wouldn't have noticed driving it a day and a half on roads like this. As a matter of fact, these were the exact roads we drove the car on. Like in the episode, I have a drive-by on this very road right here. And just as an aside, for those of you that want to complain, oh my God, you're not reviewing the car. We want to see the outside of the car, blah, blah, blah. There are, 2 or 3 episodes that are already out, so go check those out. Anyway, I digress. There are some interesting things I've noticed about this car. Number one, like, you would never use the telephone in a day. We were shooting, it was a very busy day, but now I've driven the thing for like a week, so I've used the telephone. I've had to take, send and receive calls. And you know what's interesting, and this is, put aside the Bose gig I did back at CES in January. We did a full episode with Bose on the Cadillac CT6, that Panerai system. But they also, we did a live stream about the technology in this car here. and how they have the headrest speakers, and then also how they change the tuning of the audio depending if the top is up or down. So like if I put the top up right now and had the music on, it would actually cut the music off for just a split second to change the tuning. Anyway, one thing I noticed here was when you do the actual Bluetooth, and you know, I've owned mostly convertibles in my life. I mean, we've talked about Lotus, but even before that, I've owned either Targas or convertibles in my life, and most of those have not had Bluetooth. Like, you don't buy a Lotus for Bluetooth. But here's a convertible with Bluetooth, and what they do, you think it's never going to work, they actually pipe the audio from the caller through the headrest speakers, so you can hear them crystal clear. Even if I were to like pick up the pace and go like really fast, I did this like on the highway and it worked just fine, and they could actually hear me. So neat little touch there. And then there's the dirty little secret that you and I really never talk about on this show, unless it's some sort of greeny weeny car or we're talking about like boring things like taxes, the fuel economy. I've driven this now, 8 or 9 days, and I have just put my foot into it. Like, I have not babied this thing at all. And believe it or not, I've done like almost 27 average MPG. And yes, there was a little bit of highway in there, but not much. It's been a lot of canyon cruising, like some PCH, but 27 MPG. That is, I'm sure you could do better. Okay, enough with MPG. Let's get back to your questions. So let's start at the top with a question from Autoblog Daily. Autoblog Daily, and it's not, I'm assuming, not affiliated with Autoblog, the AOL property. I would love to know your real name, by the way, because you actually are very good on social media, so would love to know your real name. Anyway, your question actually quite interesting. Your question is about what's near and dear to my heart, and that is Lotus. And the question was, what would you rather see? A Lotus kind of sell out by doing nothing but like DSGs but become very successful, or stay like niche and do nothing but manual transmissions? Now, Autoblog, I don't think this is entirely fair, and not really to Lotus, but the overall community of car freaks like you and I, and actual people that buy cars. Now follow me on this one for a minute, because we have to separate this out into Lotus and then the overall manual transmission world. So when it comes to Lotus, Lotus actually does not make money off their cars, or if they do, they make very little money. They're actually a somewhat profitable, somewhat healthy company, because really what they are is an engineering company. Their profits, or the majority of their business, is derived by engineering services to other car manufacturers. Like, for example, we drove that Hyundai Genesis sedan, which I loved and I think is one of the best bargains out there today in terms of that segment. That car was at least only the US build, actually, and it got the US Hyundai group in a little bit of trouble with Hyundai in Korea, that their build is better than the rest of the world build, because what they did is they went and hired Lotus from England, and Lotus is the one that tuned the suspension on the build of the car in the US. So they make their money off of stuff like that. So that's really the big reason why Lotus ain't going away. I think the other reason why Lotus will never go away is because I don't think the car world would ever let it go away. Like, I think if all of a sudden the engineering services just stopped, there would be another car company that would just buy them because it's Lotus. And I'm not saying this because I am a freak and have spent most of the money I have earned in my life on a Lotus, and that is the personal car of choice for me, but I'm saying this because it's so storied in the car world, and so much advancement and technology in racing and efficiency, and even what we see in cars like this today came from Lotus back in the day. But now we got to put aside the Lotus side of the house and focus on the manual transmission side of this question. And really, I feel that the reports of the death of manual transmissions in this world is grossly overestimated, overstated, however you want to put it, because there is a very solid, yes small, but very solid minority that is still buying manual transmissions. And the evidence is cars like this. This car is still very much offered a manual transmission, and there is quite a bit, like a very high percentage, actually goes with the manual in a car like this. Even the 911, they haven't gone away from manual transmissions there. Speaking of 911s, let's take that 911R as a very graphic example. That is the closest thing you and I are going to get from Porsche AG that is, yes, we screwed up. We are giving you a mea culpa. We should have offered the GT3 RS with a manual transmission from the get-go. And here's why. Yes, the automated manuals you see in like the PDK are the ones that are in the Ferrari, the Lamborghini. Yes, they are faster. But my answer to anyone that tries to bullshit me when I'm at like a cocktail party or on the comment section like, yeah, you got to get this because it's faster. Unless you are drawing a paycheck from a Tier 1 F1 team as a pilot, you do not need to shift that fast. The entire purpose of the 911R or cars like this is the human interaction. And the reality is, we are not perfect as humans. And that is the beauty of the manual transmission today. And that is why there are so many people that still want manual transmissions. Like even down at the bottom end of the spectrum, like Hyundai, they still offer a manual transmission in the Elantra. Now, I would argue they don't do it well because they limit you. They say, you can only have it in like the base, crappiest model, which most people wouldn't want, not because of the manual, but because they want like the better seats or the sunroof or whatever it is. Now, I can't give you all the details here, but starting at the end of this year, there is going to be a test case of a manual transmission in a higher spec version of those types of cars. Again, I can't tell you because I'd have to kill you and they would probably kill me, and we can't have these conversations anymore. So long and short of the story, in getting back to Autoblog's question here, I don't think it's fair to say manual or automatic and that is the success of Lotus. I think it's two separate things. I don't think Lotus is going anywhere. And then number two, I think manual transmissions, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to rise. Like you see turntable sales are going up now. Is it superior to other audio storage technologies on offer today? Absolutely not. In fact, everything from storing LPs in your collection to like the hissing and the sound that comes out of those things, not great. But there's a very small but incredibly loyal following that will seek out that technology and actually pay more for it. And that's what you're starting to see in cars like these, 911Rs, and others that will come down the pike. So let's put aside that question because I think I've completely gone off the deep end there, because of course you got me on to Lotus and manual, two things I'm excited about. Now let's press on to Chris L. Smooth, or Locust Legacy. He's on YouTube as well as Instagram, and he poses a very interesting question, and it's all about the forced induction you see going on throughout the industry. But then he updated the question recently, and it was not only what do I feel about the forced induction going on throughout the industry, but what is the best blueprint that others should follow? And he brought up the Volvo as an example of the supercharging and the turbocharging in conjunction with the electric motor. Let's break that out into two answers. First and foremost, this is not nearly as exciting or sexy as Lotus and manual transmissions, but the whole reality is it's taxes. It's all about taxes. That's why you're seeing forced induction prevalent through cars that are way down the scale, like Hyundais in the C segment, all the way up to twin turbocharged AMG Mercedes. The whole idea, there's really three types of tax schemes out there, and we spent a lot of time talking about this in the Ferrari episode as well as the McLaren episode. There is a CO2 tax, which you mainly get in Europe. There's a gas guzzler tax combined with like a CAFE requirement here in the US. And then there's a displacement tax, which actually you see in a number of areas around the world. It's not just China, not just Europe, but you see it scattered around the world. And that is the entire reason why you see these turbocharged or supercharged cars, because the manufacturers can lower the size of the engine, but also lower the CO2 footprint, or what's coming out of the tailpipe, to bring the car into a lower tax band. And the reality is they just are going to sell more cars when there's less taxes on them. Like, for example, no one buys a BMW or an S-Class on their own in Europe because of the taxes on them. All of them are generally owned by companies. They're usually company perks. In China, for example, anything over 4 liters, you have a problem. And even an exotic car with people have lots of money, that's why you see the Ferrari and the McLaren, they're all just below 4 liters. In places like Southern Europe, the line of demarcation is 3 liters. So do I like it? You saw in the 911 Turbo, it's fine. To me, hey, that's great. You know, they're going to sell more cars, and it still delivers power much like a 911 does. And for me, it actually still sounds like a 911. And so no harm, no foul there. Where I do have a problem with it is where you lose cars like the GSF. Like there, it was, Noguchi-san just came out and said, screw taxes, man. If someone's going to buy an $85,000 car, let's go whole hog. And granted, we're not going to sell as money, but this is a halo car for us now. And is that car as good as its competitors? No, the Cadillac's a better car. And if you ask me, I would buy the Cadillac over the Lexus, but I love the way that engine delivers power. I love the way it sounds. It's kind of like I was talking about the records just before. It's imperfect, but to me, it is perfect. That's the one thing I don't like about this whole thing about taxes and its effect on the overall change in the way OEMs are bringing us power. But at the end of the day, we're getting more power and better fuel efficiency. And I've told you this before, I'm a bit of a cheapskate. So if I can drive a car like this, get 27 mpg and drive like a hooligan, I'm never going to argue with that. And one thing, I'll be very honest with you, when I first bought my first Lotus, I really wanted a TVR, man. Oh God, did I want it? Because I was an American living in the UK, and I told my girlfriend at the time that I'm moving to the UK to get a job. Complete and utter crap. I moved there to buy a track car. And if you're going to tell the girl that you're serious with at the time that you're moving to buy a track car, you forget about breaking up. She would just shoot you dead. And I wanted to get to England to buy my car. So, true story, I went to go test drive the TVR, and oh man, it was a Tuscan, and whoo, I was in technology then, so I was gonna buy either one. So I go and test drive the car, and you know, I like to think of myself as a shrewd negotiator when it comes to buying cars. But oh my God, I made every newbie mistake. I was excited on the test drive. I'm like, I gotta get me this car. I was so excited. And the salesman, I'm so not making this up, he looks at me and he's like, I can tell by your very West London accent that you're not from here. And I have to tell you that if you are not comfortable with this car leaving you on the side of the road at least twice a year, you shouldn't buy it. This is the salesman telling me this. So I went home, cried like a baby, and the next day I went and bought my Lotus. Okay, so let's put that aside and let's get back to the actual boring bits of taxes, because the real big event that's going to happen is in 2025 when the US goes to a different CAFE requirement spectrum. Now, for those of you that don't know, corporate average fuel economy. That's what CAFE stands for. It started in the 70s with, basically it was the response to the oil embargo to drive up overall fuel economy on a manufacturer level basis. So the idea was it was a credit-based system where car manufacturers had to sell a certain amount of fuel efficient cars in order to sell higher profit, less fuel efficient cars. So the idea was you had to sell a certain amount of Chevrolet Cobalts to sell like half as many Corvettes or a quarter of many Corvettes, which is the ones you make money on. But then when Obama came in office, everything changed. They said, okay, let's put aside this 27, 30, 32, 35 MPG requirements, and let's make it hard. Let's actually really change the deck, because there wasn't a lot of change from, say, 1977 to, say, 2005. And even me as a car guy, I would agree with that. So what they did is they set the target very high, and there was a lot of back and forth with the car manufacturers. So it was originally something like 55 or 60, something like that, as a corporate average fuel economy for like General Motors, and then the same for FCA, the same for Ford, and so on. And the manufacturers sort of pushed back, and they said, no, that's too much. And there were some aggressive timelines that they wanted to change. So the agreement then changed, okay, 52.5 MPG by 2025. And the idea was give the manufacturers enough runway to get there. And the logic is let's do this with a host of technologies, not just one technology. Which brings us back to Chris's question, what do I think is a good blueprint? And really, I'm kind of agnostic in this area. Like, I love the fact that Volvo has come out with this turbocharged and supercharged 4-cylinder strategy combined with electrification in like the upper models. Hey, they're getting what, 415 horsepower in an XC90 and now the S90. That's wonderful. But then Toyota does it differently by providing more electrification down way at the bottom end of the spectrum with like the Prius C or the regular Prius. Not that I'm a big fan of a Prius. But then you see companies like McLaren getting into it by saying, okay, we're going to come out with a supercar and add some electrification. Is it really for fuel economy? Not really. That's more for just overall efficiency that's pushing the bounds of technology. So what's happening is it's making everybody a better player in the global environment. And I've actually been a big proponent that the car world, they get a lot of shit because of it's a dirty industry or they've been bad to the environment. When you really think about it, it's the car world that has been the best at policing itself. They're like, you know what? Yeah, the government can come in and set regulations, but forget about the regulations. If our cars get terrible fuel economy and fuel quickly goes up to $5 a gallon as it did back in 2008, we're not going to sell any cars. And that's why they have to police themselves. So I kind of take my hat off to them. Yes, it is somewhat, it's not so altruistic, is it? But at the end of the day, they're moving the needle forward more so than other industries like logistics. Horrible. No efficiency there. I'd love to see more changes there than in the car world. So, Chris, this is a very long-winded way of saying I don't really say that someone has to blueprint the Volvo system or the Toyota system or what McLaren is doing. I think that as long as there's more research and development, and you're starting to see more of that coming out of like General Motors, you're starting to see more come out of even like the likes of Hyundai, Kia, which I think is making the industry a better place and overall the economy a better place. And with that, I want to close this out on a question from a good friend of the show, and that is Amro from Saudi Arabia. Amro was there from the beginning. He is a major Cadillac AMG SRT guy. And his question is, what do I think about the new Porsche Panamera? I think you guys know I love the Porsche Panamera. I hated the way the ass end looked. I always loved the front, and I love the interior. I love the way they drive. But this new one, it fixes it all. Like, I think even the back end is now prettier than the front end. Can't wait to see it in person. Can't wait to drive it. I am a little nervous about how they've gone away from my favorite, like all the different buttons they had. That's what I really liked about the Panamera. It has buttons instead of like this unified controller thing, which I don't like these things. Now it's all like, it's one glass like cockpit with like haptic feedback. I'm a little bit nervous about that, and let's put a pin in that conversation until we actually drive the car, which we will. So with that, I want to leave you guys with a couple of things. Number one, a question about this car. I already told you what I would do to change this car around and make it personally my own. And I got to tell you, after we drive the RF, I actually may buy one. I mean, this is that good. But what would you do to customize the current ND Miata? Would you do the Flying Miata or some other outfit? Or would you do just flat out V8 full fat and like take it on a rally or Targa or something like that? Let me know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then I also want to leave you with, yes, you should download our fancy new mobile application, which has been updated recently, so make sure you check it out. And then last but certainly not least, we are going to do these on a more regular basis. So I'll be able to answer your questions on a more regular and more timely basis. So get your questions in using the hashtag AskMotoManTV, AskMotoManTV, all one word, and get them in via Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Those are the best ones for me to check. And hey, here's like an off-the-wall question. Would you guys be interested in interacting on Snapchat? Like, I signed up for Snapchat, I'm sitting on my name, but I haven't used it yet. Like, how many of you guys actually use Snapchat? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, with that, I need to get to the airport to get on a flight to head to Atlanta because we have one hell of a birthday celebration to kick off starting tomorrow.